It is often said that the opposite of love is indifference, but I disagree now. For me, the opposite of love is hatred. A blind and boiling hatred. I once worshipped my wife. Dedicated my heart and soul to our relationship. Willing to do anything for her, even taking a bullet. But things have changed. She shattered my heart. Crushed the life I once found satisfaction in. Now, it is time for me to seek revenge. As I quietly climb the dim stairs of our home, I do everything I can to avoid being detected. However, the noise coming from our once shared bedroom drowned out any sound I might make. Pushing open the slightly ajar door. Clutching a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. I faced the scene before me. My soon-to-be ex-wife Alice and my boss Jack Harmon entangled. The sound of the shotgun chambering around caught their attention. They stared at me in shock. Jack broke free from Alice and spat out words. "What are you doing here, you coward? You should be in Jonesboro. Why are you here at all? Wanting a front row seat to watch a real man satisfy your wife? Is that it? Are you some kind of perverted voyeur?" Alice's laughter cut through the tense atmosphere. "Oh, darling, he wants to see how a real man makes me feel," she taunted with a mocking laugh. Jack came towards me, and that's when it all began. I unleashed a barrage of gunfire at them. Until only my anger echoed. As the fog of rage dissipated, the room was filled with the smell of gunpowder. Smoke lingered heavily in the air. Surveying the massacre, I realized my life was lost. The police would come soon. To execute justice with bullets or worse. A prison cell awaited me. There was one bullet left in the shotgun. With a sense of helpless determination, I pointed the muzzle at myself. When I suddenly woke up, drenched in sweat, the reality around me slowly became clear. I was trapped in a hotel in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I had been here on a business trip since Sunday. Now it was Thursday morning. I had a task to complete. To update the customer base according to Jack's instructions. The remnants of the nightmare clung to my consciousness, choking me. I sighed heavily, looked at the time. It was only 3:30 in the morning, I muttered to myself. Realizing sleep would elude me again, I stumbled out of bed, splashed water on my face. Brewed a cup of coffee. Seeking solace in the glow of the television. This recurring nightmare was an expression of my pain over Alice's betrayal. It had been haunting me mercilessly for the past week. Each variation only differing in the weapon of my revenge. Despite my military background and an abundance of firearms, I have never been violent towards others. Until now. You might wonder what prompted such a drastic change. Please allow me to explain. My name is Thomas Jefferson Langley. A name bestowed upon me by parents who are history enthusiasts. After graduating from high school, I joined the Marine Corps, specializing in NBC defense. Except for a period in Okinawa, Japan, most of my service involved teaching duties. At home, finally overseeing the base's gas chamber for 6 months. Recognizing the limited civilian application of my military expertise, I pursued education, obtaining a degree in networking and business. After graduation, I joined Imperial Technology Solutions as a customer service representative, where I met Alice. During the newspaper investigation, I was unaware our encounter would evolve into a nightmare of betrayal, revenge, and shattered illusions. 5 years ago, Alice and I embarked on a journey that would ultimately lead to our marriage. The next 4.5 years, life was harmonious. We had a deep connection, spent precious time together, and envisioned a future with children. With our combined income, we invested in a charming 4-bedroom farmhouse on a vast plot of land outside the city. The rural charm attracted Alice, and the existence of the detached studio pleased me. Our dream home had a master bedroom with its own gas fireplace, as well as ample space for the family. Then my world began to fall apart. A coveted job opportunity arose within the company. I eagerly pursued it. I did not know John Carlson, responsible for national service operations, considered me a strong contender. But the board favored Jack Harmon, a newcomer from Boston, with slightly more experience and influential family connections. Despite my resentment, I warmly welcomed his arrival. But his presence irritated me. His crooked smile exuded an air of arrogance. One night, I confided my concerns to Alice. She suggested I extend an olive branch, which surprised me. Inviting him over for dinner, she urged, speculating perhaps Jack was just adjusting to a new environment without family support. Encouraged by her optimism, I extended the invitation. And Jack gladly accepted. He asked if he could bring his family, revealing a painful truth. He was alone. Despite my initial hesitation, I assured him that his company was the only thing that mattered. It's just your appetite, I assured Jack. He accepted my dinner invitation. He arrived as promised. The evening progressed pleasantly. Over the hearty stew Alice prepared, we conversed, fostering a facade of camaraderie. Jack was impressed with Alice's culinary skills, left with a container of leftovers, leaving a good impression on both of us. He doesn't seem like such a bad guy, Alice commented after he left. You two seem to get along well, I might admit, though doubts still lingered beneath the surface. By the way, that stew was great. Let me help with the dishes. Then I'll show you my gratitude. Then I playfully swatted her on the butt upstairs. She disappeared into the dining room with a giggle, dealing with the aftermath of our meal. The next day, Jack came to my office, expressing gratitude for the dinner. After praising Alice's cooking, came an unexpected request to increase out-of-town assignments. Despite reservations, Jack insisted it was necessary to adopt a more aggressive business approach. Starting next week, he announced, I want you to go to St. Louis on Monday. Peters and List are considering upgrading servers during the tax season. I want your hands on the assessment. Peters and List, familiar clients in the accounting industry, were considering an upgrade without my knowledge. A fact that caught my attention. Jack's instructions went beyond a simple assessment. My task was to visit all their branches, which could take several days. Reluctantly, I agreed, thinking of Alice's impending disappointment. She won't be happy, I said. Jack soothed me with the promise of compensation. Alice's discontent was obvious, but I tried to appease her with a romantic evening and a weekend together. Call me as soon as you get there, she insisted as I packed for the trip. Her worries were evident. Do well, she added with a playful smile. Fortunately, the short drive to St. Louis, I left with worry and determination to meet Jack's expectations, while maintaining the delicate balance between family and career. Am I not always? I withdrew before kissing Alice, a familiar ritual in our relationship. When I settled into my room in St. Louis, I kept in regular contact with Alice, calling her mobile number and our home phone. Our conversations, filled with laughter and affection, became a lifeline across the distance. On a Thursday morning, unexpectedly finishing a client's commission, I seized the opportunity to return home early and surprise Alice. Our reunion was joyful, temporarily masking the stress brought by my increasingly frequent absences. However, as weeks passed, the cost of prolonged separation became apparent. Initially, Alice seemed resilient, but the stress eventually manifested in subtle ways. The lingering smell of cigarettes, a habit we had sworn to quit together years ago. Her confession revealed the coping mechanism she relied on in my absence. I understand, I assured her, acknowledging the pressure from my work, orchestrated by Jack. Despite expressing my concerns to Jack, his dismissive attitude emphasized the inevitability of my extended travels. Despite feeling frustrated, I accepted it, continuing to fulfill my obligations. Upon returning from another trip, I encountered the malfunction of our home's gas fireplace. A potentially dangerous situation, exacerbated by my busy schedule. The urgency of the technician's warning highlighted the seriousness of the issue. However, finding time to repair proved elusive. As Jack's demands intensified, the consequences echoed in our home. The coldness of our house reflected the growing distance between Alice and me, eventually leading to reduced intimacy and tense communication. Alice's deteriorating health, worsened by my prolonged absences, became apparent. Despite my concern, Jack remained indifferent, prioritizing business over well-being. Tense communication reached a critical point. When I tried to contact Alice, there was no response, only receiving feeble excuses. The rift widened, signaling the disintegration of our once solid foundation. Then the worst happened. I returned from a trip early, finding myself not greeted by the warmth of expectation, but by the coldness of betrayal. As I pulled into our driveway, seeing Jack's BMW parked in front of our garage shocked me. Walking into the house, I stumbled upon a scene that shattered my illusions about marriage. Alice in a revealing black dress, sitting on the couch with Jack. Their clandestine behavior, and the thick cigarette smoke, lingered heavily in the air. My presence prompted them to attempt an explanation, but the truth hung conspicuously between us. Confronting Jack, I carried anger and determination, asserting my authority in my own home. As I demanded he leave, his smile faltered. I drew a line he dared not cross. Alice's silence spoke volumes, confirming my worst fears. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice filled with disbelief and hurt. Alice's confession was the painful revelation of her infidelity during my frequent absences. After her admission, I wrestled with a whirlwind of emotions. The betrayal cut deeply, unraveling the web of trust that once bound us tightly. Despite her pleas and tears, I knew forgiveness was out of reach. With a heavy heart, I reluctantly accepted the inevitable. The harsh reality of our broken marriage lingered heavily in the air. As I discarded symbols of our union, finally casting away my wedding ring, packing my things, I fled the suffocating confines of our home, where the pungent smell of deceit lingered, the remnants of their trust scattered in the room. An intuitive reminder of the irreparable damage in our relationship. Leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage, I embarked on a journey of solitude and self-discovery. With a heavy heart and determination to sever ties, I bid farewell to the home once filled with promises of happiness. Finding refuge in the anonymity of a motel room, I sought solace from the haunting memories that plagued my mind. However, as the night unfolded, the shadows of my past manifested in vivid nightmares, a torment that refused to give me respite. The next day, I sought advice from John Carlson, confiding in him the betrayal that shattered my world. His empathy offered a sliver of comfort amidst the chaos, a lifeline in the turmoil. Entering the unfamiliar territory of legal procedures, I sought guidance from a divorce lawyer, navigating the complexities of dissolution with necessary determination. As I gathered my belongings from the wreckage of my past life, a renewed sense of purpose propelled me forward. Among the ruins of shattered dreams, a forgotten relic awakened within me, a part of my past life as a Marine. With bitter irony, I grasped the capsule of CS training pills, a tool once used in training exercises, now repurposed for a different end. A twisted notion took root in my mind. As I plotted the appropriate revenge, with calculated precision, I sprinkled the potent powder in the ashtray. A silent warning to those who dared desecrate the sanctity of my home. As I left, a grim satisfaction lingered. A sliver of justice in a world tainted by betrayal. However, beneath the veneer of revenge, a profound sense of emptiness eroded my soul, reminding me of the irreparable loss now defining my existence. I took matters into my own hands, orchestrating a silent counterattack against the desecration of my home. With meticulous determination, I infused the potent powder of CS training pills into the ashtray, a subtle deterrent to their misconduct. But I didn't stop there. A rebellious impulse guided my actions. As I sprinkled the powder on the bed, a secret reminder of their betrayal, inscribed in the fabric of our shared space. Yet I exercised restraint, keeping the remaining capsules for future journeys. With a heavy heart and determination to sever ties, I packed my things, storing them safely in a rented storage facility, until finding a new sanctuary. As I arrived at Lisa Hawkins' law office, I sought guidance. Amidst the chaos of legal procedures, her pragmatic advice offered a sliver of clarity amidst the chaos. As we navigated the complexities of dissolution, I gained insights to move forward. Armed with strategies to protect my interests, I took decisive steps, severing ties, establishing newfound independence. With a checklist of protective measures, I pressed on, regaining agency amidst the wreckage of a broken marriage. However, in the echoes of the shattered alliance, a familiar voice pierced the silence, heralding impending turmoil. I stood firm with determination against the storm, refusing to succumb to their venomous invectives. As night fell, I sought solace in the embrace of sleep, temporary relief from the tumultuous emotions plaguing my weary soul. In the tranquility of the night, I found respite. A brief respite from the chaos surrounding my world. I attended a brunch expecting a peaceful respite, only to find Alice seated at my table. An unexpected intrusion, disturbing my moment of peace. "How surprised," I dryly said. "How was your sleep last night?" "I think you know how I slept," she replied with a hint of bitterness. "I saw your car and decided to come in and see you." "What do you want, Alice?" I asked discontentedly. "I'm trying to enjoy a delicious breakfast." She requested to discuss our relationship, feeling pointless. "It's useless, Alice," I asserted. "You've done it when you decided to sleep with my boss." Her defense was feeble. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she pleaded. "I just felt lonely." The weight of her betrayal fell on me. "Do you think I wasn't lonely too?" I retorted. "You know I left because your friend sent me away. By the way, I saw a lawyer yesterday. The divorce papers are being filed. You should receive the notice next week." Her quiet plea for reconciliation fell on deaf ears. "But I don't want a divorce," she whispered. "I don't want a cheating prostitute as my wife," I declared firmly. "Don't worry. I'll leave the house to you, unless you want to sell it. It benefits me either way. Your credit cards are also no longer valid." Her inquiry about the previous day's events sounded hollow. "I don't know what you're talking about," I denied. "I just came to get more things. Especially my weapons and my computer." She recounted the effects of the CS powder in the house. A subtle sense of satisfaction rippled within me. "Well, I guess you won't be smoking in the bedroom anymore," I commented, wryly. With a sense of resigned acceptance, she admitted to spending the night elsewhere, insisting nothing happened between them. "That's too bad," I mocked. She requested friendship, provoking my inner rage. "Friend," I scoffed skeptically. "You betrayed my trust and broke my heart. And you have the audacity to ask if we can be friends." The intensity of my words startled her. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Do you really have no feelings anymore?" She choked. "I used to love you," I admitted succinctly. "But not anymore. Now just seeing you makes me feel sick." Her apology was weak. She retreated, leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. It's good to get rid of the trash, I mused, knowing my subtle revenge had made an impact. The rest of the day passed, spent in aimless wandering, eventually spending a night alone in a motel, preparing for the journey ahead. A few days later, Alice's call stirred up complex emotions. Her anger at the divorce papers met with my own resentment. How could you humiliate me like that? She protested. How could you humiliate me by sleeping with my boss? I countered, ending the conversation with a conclusive tone, reflecting the irreparable rift between us. I received a threatening email from Jack. I forwarded it to John immediately. John assured me not to worry about Jack's threats. He would be gone by the weekend if everything went well. John assured me. All right, I thought he could take the traitor. As preparations for my return were underway, I realized I might be better off not facing the traitor in town. In the past few days, no one knew what I might have done. As dawn approached, I decided to take a shower, have some breakfast, then go home. Around 6:30 a.m. on Thursday morning, I was on my way home. I tuned into my favorite local radio station, hoping to hear some morning news. On Old Mill Road, firefighters responded to an incident last night. The announcer's voice came through the speakers. My heart skipped a beat. Old Mill Road. That's where my house is. I listened intently. I learned that an explosion swept through an old farmhouse, claiming one life, leaving another in critical condition. Fear enveloped me. I sped up my journey home, worrying about the worst-case scenario. When I arrived, I saw the devastating sight. The house was reduced to smoldering ruins. Only the brick fireplace remained. 2 cars were parked nearby. One belonged to Alice, the other to Jack. The studio miraculously survived, waving at me amidst the destruction. As I approached, I was stopped by firefighters. I'm sorry, sir, but you have to leave, I was told. I showed my driver's license and explained it was my home. I've been away since Sunday. What happened? They told me there was a reported explosion, although Alice was pulled from the rubble and hospitalized. Jack did not survive. What caused all this? I asked, pointing at the debris. They could not answer. They urged me to contact my insurance company. I relayed the tragic news to John. He expressed his condolences and suggested I visit Alice. After resting for the rest of the day, I went to the hospital, where I learned the extent of Alice's injuries. 2nd and 3rd degree burns covered more than half of her body. Back in my room, emotions overwhelmed me, tears flowed freely. I submitted a claim to the insurance company online, hoping to find some resolution in the chaos. That night, for the first time, I did not fall into recurring nightmares. In the following days, I confirmed Jack's death and learned that his job was now mine, if I wanted it. The hell with it, I thought. Might as well take it. With a new job and finding the right apartment, I began to rebuild, while salvaging what I could from the ruins of our house. I reflected on the years spent with Alice. Sadness and forgiveness welled up. A few days later, the hospital called, allowing me to visit and talk to Alice. Entering her room, I saw a sight that deeply moved me. Most of her body was covered in bandages. Approaching her bedside, I saw tears sliding down her face. Can you speak? I asked softly. She nodded slightly, her trembling lips. She barely uttered a faint yes. What happened? I inquired gently. We lit the fireplace on Wednesday night, she began. Her voice was tense. Jack tried to light it, but there was a sudden explosion. My suspicion was obvious. Don't you remember my warning? Not to use it before replacing the internal parts. I questioned, in disbelief. I'm sorry, she whispered. Jack checked the gas. Lit a match, then there was a heavy silence. Jack is dead, I informed her bluntly, triggering new tears. Our house is like our marriage, in ruins. I ruined everything, didn't I? She lamented. Yes, you did, I affirmed. As for what happens next, you may need expensive skin grafts. I can't guarantee insurance coverage. As for us, there is no more us. Her crying intensified. But among them, she thanked me for my support. Do you still hate me? She asked, her voice resigned. Not as much as before, I admitted. But my feelings for you are still tense. We reached an understanding. I decided to give her space. Playing with fire burns oneself. I warned, then left the room. To my surprise, the insurance company intervened, compensating me for the loss of the house. With the mortgage settled, I proposed selling the property. Alice agreed. She was still hospitalized. Her employer granted her an extended leave. As the divorce proceedings unfolded, I found solace in dating Rose. She helped me manage my anger. As I promised, I supported Alice until she regained independence. The doctor's efforts proved fruitful. Her recovery progressed well, leaving only faint scars. As a final act of kindness, I helped her transition to a new apartment. Chose one without a fireplace. When I handed her the keys, I offered a farewell hug. I urged you to take care of yourself. After we said goodbye, I considered my next steps. Dialing a familiar number, I arranged a meeting with Nancy, a charming allure I recently met. Sometimes, brushing with danger can ignite unexpected sparks. Thank you everyone who took the time to listen to today's story. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing. If you haven't, feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.